It's week 16. That means we're getting deep into the fantasy playoffs. Make sure you pick the right quarterback and the right tight end for your fantasy lineup. Let's go through all the matchups and see who to start or sit. Now at quarterback, there's still a few guys you can trust. These are the must-start QBs. Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, and Jaden Daniels. At tight end, Trey McBride, George Kittle, and Brock Bowers. While you're getting your lineup set to pull out a playoff win in your fantasy, why not go for a win in Underdog if you're doing NFL pick'ems? Remember, if you're signing up for the first time, you're new to Underdog, they'll give you a free pick. You can win right off the bat, and you get free cash. Just use code ENDGAME when you check out as a new customer and get up to $1,000 of bonus cash in your account. Just make sure to put that promo code ENDGAME. The week begins on Thursday night with the Broncos at the Chargers, and a couple of quarterbacks that have actually kind of been on the downslide lately. Let's start with Bo Nix in Denver. Man, he did not take advantage of the matchup against the Colts. 3 interceptions, although he did have 3 touchdowns to offset it. So, how are we feeling about Nix here?
Can't be feeling good. Short week on the road against this Chargers defense. I don't want to play Bo Nix in a 1 QB league. 2 QB Superflex only.
You had already pointed out before this week, he's not running anymore, which limits his upside. But what's going on? Last 2 games before and after the bye, 5 interceptions? Yeah, something's not right here. Superflex only. And then Justin Herbert, I mean, I know he's not 100%. We've seen that he is definitely banged up, but he's still going out there. But could you trust him in fantasy?
Against the Broncos, I don't think so. Again, just not enough upside for a 1 QB league. 2 QB Superflex only.
Ladd McConkey coming back didn't help him that much. I just don't think he's fully healthy. They missed J.K. Dobbins. There's no running game here. It's a tough matchup. I mean, barely a Superflex option for me at this point. I'll tell you what. I can definitely do this. On Underdog, right now, his early pick'em line for week 16 is 235.5 yards. I'm going to take the lower. I mean, he hasn't even been scratching that lately, and this is a really tough spot for him to be in. So I'm going to go lower on Justin Herbert. You could do the same, combine it with the free pick that you get if you're new to Underdog, and you have a good chance to win right off the bat. Just when you're signing up for the first time, use code ENDGAME at checkout. But one guy who's sort of emerged in this Chargers offense is Stone Smart, the tight end, because of Will Dissly's injury. Came away with 5 for 50 last week. Can he do something against the Broncos?
I think so. Broncos aren't a shutdown defense against tight ends, and he was involved. Not a ton of upside here, but I think you could stream him.
Yeah, I guess he's on the streaming radar. Definitely not somebody who inspires me, but there's not that many great options at tight end. So if he's the best you got, then I guess you could go with him. Now on Saturday, we're going to have 2 games, the first of which is the Texans at the Chiefs. Well, we know that CJ Stroud is still in the saddle for the Texans. How do you feel about him in this matchup at Arrowhead?
Can't feel good on the road against the Chiefs. I mean, when's the last time this guy was really good in fantasy? I almost hesitate to even say start him in 2 QB Superflex, but that's probably going a little too far. So barely 2 QB Superflex.
Superflex, sure, just because, again, as we go through, you realize there's enough bad quarterback play that, he's at least got to be one of the top 24 quarterbacks in the league. But that's it. Superflex only. At tight end, still Dalton Schultz for the Texans. The upside here?
It is a good matchup against the Chiefs. They struggle against tight ends, but upside, I don't think so. I don't want to start Dalton Schultz.
I don't either, even though the Chiefs still do, for some reason, give up a lot of points to tight ends. Dalton Schultz isn't getting a lot of points at any point this season. I'm not going to risk it. Now, you probably heard from Kansas City, Pat Mahomes, week to week, they're fearing a high ankle sprain. We've seen this before, so if he does play, which is definitely questionable at this point, would you play him?
Can't feel good. It's very risky here with that ankle. Could be limited, probably not going to run, could get re-injured, but he's still Patrick Mahomes, so I'll say he's okay in a 2 QB Superflex.
Oh yeah, I don't think we can ever put him too much lower. I can't outright bench Pat Mahomes, but in a 1 QB league, yeah, I'd be looking elsewhere if you've been starting Mahomes. Now, if Mahomes sits and they rest him for that Christmas Day game, we could be looking at Carson Wentz running the Chiefs offense. How does it make you feel?
Not good. I've seen Carson Wentz many times. I know there's going to be people, they're going to say, it's the Chiefs, it's Andy Reid. They can do something with Wentz. I'm here to tell you, no, he can't. I am not starting Carson Wentz.
I am not starting Carson Wentz. No, not in any format. So with the uncertainty at quarterback, this means Travis Kelce not just a set and forget, but is he an outright bench?
I don't know if I could outright bench him, but man, Kelce has not been very good lately anyways. I'm going to say Travis Kelce, only a solid start this week, and even that feels a little generous.
Yeah, only if Mahomes plays could he be considered a solid start, because, again, you're going to start digging really deep looking for a replacement. Yeah, if it's Carson Wentz, I'm probably benching Travis Kelce. So what does this mean for Noah Gray? Is he still even on the streaming radar?
Not if it's Carson Wentz. Not if it's Carson Wentz. If it's Mahomes, you could consider it, because, I mean, he scored last week, but if it's Wentz, no way.
I'm with you there. Barely a streamer with Mahomes, nothing at all with Wentz. Now, hopefully this video helps you with all your start-sit decisions, but if you still have questions for start-sit, waiver wire trades, or anything fantasy football related, use the Draft Lane app, because that connects you directly with Chris and myself for all your fantasy football needs. Download it for free right now. Also on Saturday, it's going to be the Steelers at the Ravens. Okay, so let's talk Russell Wilson. We thought that he would cook last time he played Baltimore. He did not. And now it's in Baltimore with an improved secondary. What do you do with Russ?
This is going to come down to George Pickens. So many injury questions this week, but it's going to come down to George Pickens. If he's got George Pickens, I think he's fine in a 2 QB superflex. If George Pickens is out again, I am benching Russell Wilson. Just not enough upside.
Yeah, I mean, very risky. Like I said, the Baltimore defense, especially the secondary, has been a lot better over the past month. So that said, I think Russ is just still going to be a 2 QB option. Now, Pat Freiermuth has been on a roll, scoring a touchdown pretty much every week over the past month. Does he keep it going here?
Why not? Why not? It's Baltimore. It doesn't scare me off him. I think Muth a strong start this week.
Yeah, as far as tight ends go, like you said, why not? He's getting targeted, and hey, if George Pickens is still out or he's not 100%, he's still going to get a fair amount of catches. So he's a strong tight end. Is Mark Andrews in the strong tier here? I mean, he did score last week.
He did, but only 2 targets, only 2 catches. I'm going to keep Mark Andrews where I've pretty much had Mark Andrews most of the week. Solid start.
There's always touchdown upside. Again, the matchup not ideal, but not terrible as far as tight ends go. So yeah, let's plant him right in the middle, the solid tier. Giants taking on the Falcons this week. So, Drew Lock, Tommy DeVito, Tim Boyle, take your pick. Do you want any of them?
No, I don't care who starts for the Giants. I'm not starting any of them.
Exactly. 3 QB league, 4 QB league? No. But then on the other hand, Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, not starting Kyle Pitts.
No, done. He's done. Now let's talk Patriots at Bills. I think you're pretty good if you have that Buffalo quarterback. Are you good with Drake May in New England?
Not a guy I want to start in a 1 QB league. I know they've given up a ton to Matthew Stafford and Jared Goff the last 2 weeks, but that was the Rams and the Lions offenses. This is the Patriots offense. But Drake May's been okay. He runs a little. I'll say 2 QB superflex only.
Well, I think what we've seen from Drake May in real life is encouraging for his future. It's not encouraging for his present in fantasy. They just need a lot of help in that offense. So, barely a super flex option. What about the tight end, Hunter Henry?
Yeah, did not come through last week. I thought he would be a good streaming option. I mean, he didn't kill you, but he didn't really help you. Barely a streamer. This is a tough tight end matchup.
Right, not ideal here. I mean, at least he could get you something, right? He probably won't give you a 0. You probably need some more upside, so just a desperation streamer. Dalton Kincaid did return play, somewhat involved, I guess you could say. You're a little encouraged here.
I mean, a little, but just a little. I mean, I'd like him more than Hunter Henry, but barely more, so also barely a streamer.
Right, he's also still not scoring touchdowns, not getting big plays downfield. Like you said, barely a streamer. Cardinals going to take on the Panthers this week. Kyler Murray, I mean, you feel like you should feel a lot better about him by this point in the season. I don't. I mean, can you stream him in a 1 QB league?
It's the Panthers. You feel like you should be able to, but I couldn't do it. I can't do it anymore. I'm done. I'm done making excuses for this guy. 2 QB superflex only.
Yeah, they need to rework this offense, do something different next year. I don't know what's up with Kyler, but I don't want to trust him if I don't have to, so superflex is it. And then Bryce Young, just when he was coming on, definitely took a step back last week. But that said, he was never really a streaming option in the first place, was he?
No, this is barely 2 QB superflex. This is one of the quarterbacks I might consider not super flexing, but you can.
The upside is just not there, and I don't feel like this matchup is going to do anything to work wonders for his fantasy upside. All right, now we have the Lions taking on the Bears here. So Jared Goff coming off another huge game, but do you think he does it at Chicago? Don't feel like this is going to be a shootout.
No, I don't. This is on the road in Chicago. I feel like this is going to kind of be like Sam Darnold this week. Remember a couple weeks ago, Sam Darnold had that huge game, and then everybody's like, I got to start Sam Darnold. And yeah, he didn't have a big game the next week. I feel like that's going to be Jared Goff this week. I think he's fine. I think you could stream him in a 1 QB league, but that's as high as I can go.
I will say he's streamable. Again, you prefer him at home. You prefer him against a lesser defense. But again, they might have to pass the ball more with no Monty. That defense is looking pretty rough. So he's a streaming option. Sam Laporta coming off a nice game, and it wasn't just based on touchdowns. So how do you feel about Laporta here?
I feel the same way I always do. I mean, Jared Goff's not going to throw for 500 yards again. So yeah, I'm not expecting that Sam Laporta game. But I feel like Sam Laporta is solid.
Yeah, that's about right. I mean, always some upside here, but it's not really a smash spot. So let's say he's a solid tight end. And Caleb Williams, I mean, not just one, I think he's taken 2 steps back over the last 2 weeks. After looking great for 2 games, has looked horrible for 2 games. Which Caleb Williams do we get this week?
It is a good matchup against his banged-up Lions defense. He did have a nice game against them last time, and he's at home. But, I mean, still, are you really willing to put Caleb Williams in your lineup in a 1 QB league with everything on the line? I'm not. 2 QB Superflex, fine.
Yeah, I almost don't want to risk it in a Superflex league either. I believe in him. I believe he's got a great future ahead of him. He's got good receivers, but man, I think just the coaching staff has been the issue all year, and that hasn't changed. So, Superflex only. So with that said, is Cole Kmet even an option?
No, not even an option. This is too risky.
Yeah, and he's one of the guys who has disappeared as of late, so just pass. Now let's talk Titans at Colts. We've seen some pretty rough QB play from both of these teams. Well, Mason Rudolph. I mean, the last time he was inserted as a starter, it gave them a spark for at least, I think, a game or 2.
Yeah, this is so risky. I really hope you have better options than Mason Rudolph. Even in 2 QB Superflex, I hope you have a better option than Mason Rudolph.
Yeah, let's not take a chance here. Come on, let's just pass. Now, what about Anthony Richardson? Again, feel like he was making progress, and now we've seen him kind of just look like the old Anthony Richardson from earlier this season.
Yeah, you just never know what you're going to get. He could run in 2 touchdowns and you're kicking yourself, or he could do what he did last week and you're also kicking yourself for starting him. So 2 QB Superflex only because he does have that rushing upside.
Exactly what you said. Not the worst option out there because of his legs, but man, that floor is dangerously low. All right, now the Rams at the Jets, 2 very experienced quarterbacks, starting with Matt Stafford, who hopefully didn't play in week 15, but if you have to choose between him and somebody else in week 16, do you choose Stafford?
I mean, if my choices are like Will Levis, Mason Rudolph, Caleb Williams, probably, but I don't love Matthew Stafford this week on the road against the Jets. 2 QB Superflex, and even then it's risky.
Yeah, we saw exactly how risky it is. I mean, the Jets defense has still been fighting hard, looking pretty decent. Matthew Stafford looked far from decent last week, so in a 2 QB league, you could still roll him out, though. Now, I don't know if this is really a deal or not for fantasy, but somebody's probably going to ask out there. Tyler Higbee, remember him? He might actually return this week. He's been practicing. If Higbee plays, could you stream him?
First game of the season, Kupp and Puka healthy, no chance.
No, this is getting way too deep and a little too optimistic here, so just say no to Higbee. And don't look now, but Aaron Rodgers putting together a couple of really strong games, even for fantasy purposes. Going against the Rams here, are you considering him as a streamer in a 1 QB league?
I am. It's at home. It's the Rams. He's been good the last 2 weeks. Yeah, it's risky, but I think you could stream Aaron Rodgers this week.
It is risky, but look, I will say with the running backs not at full health, and Feels like what he wasn't giving early in the season, he's just letting it all out now as the season's coming to an end and basically nothing to play for. So for what it's worth, he's probably going to throw it a lot. He's going to force feed Devontae Adams. He does have some upside. You could stream it. Eagles versus Commanders should be a good one, and you're good with both those quarterbacks. Are you good with any of these tight ends here? Look, it's still Grant Calcaterra as long as Goddard is on IR. Is he even a possibility?
One catch last week. This is very risky. I'm not going to do it.
And not like it's a great matchup or anything. Calcaterra, I think, can be off the radar. Now, Zach Ertz, looking like a very good option last week until he left early in the game with a concussion. If he even clears in time and plays here against his former team, would you do it?
Yeah, this is a tough matchup against the Eagles. He did score against them last time, although it was garbage time. Very risky here. I'm just going to say a risky streamer.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to see what his status is before the weekend. If he plays, I mean, sure, you could still stream him again, but it's not going to be my favorite week to play Ertz. Now we got the Browns at the Bengals. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, who came in the fourth quarter last week, gets the start. Would you risk him against the Bengals?
No chance. No upside here. Hard pass.
I'm not. David Njoku, he missed last week with injury. If he comes back, do you trust him?
I'm going to say only a streamer.
Still think Njoku could be a solid start just because it's the Bengals. And for Cincinnati, is Mike Gesicki an option in Week 16?
I mean, he's an option, but not a very good one. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Browns defense isn't that great either, but come on, just not a secure target share. I think he's a desperation streamer. Now we got Vikings at Seahawks. Sure enough, just when everyone's all in on Sam Darnold, pretty disappointing performance here in Week 15. On the road in Seattle, how are you feeling?
Can't feel good on the road, Seattle. Seattle still does have a good defense, still a tough place to play. I don't think he's the worst option, but I'm going to say just a streamer in a 1 QB league.
I'd be very nervous about Darnold. The Seattle pass defense has improved a lot over the last few weeks. We know that's a tough place to play. And given the state potentially of the QB situation on the other side, this just could be a very low scoring game. But he's got Justin Jefferson, he's got Jordan Addison, so I guess he's still a streamer. Well, last week, TJ Hawkinson was solid. Is that what he's going to be again? Solid?
Yeah, I'm probably just going to leave him in the solid tier all the rest of this season. I don't know what to make of TJ Hawkinson. Like, I can't sit him, but I don't feel great starting him. He's solid.
Kind of starting to feel a little Hunter Henry-esque to some extent, but maybe slightly more upside, so I think he's solid. And as I mentioned, for Seattle, Geno Smith left with, didn't look like a very good knee injury, went to the locker room and missed the second half. If he is cleared to play, though, would you trust him?
Can't feel good. I mean, he is at home, but it's also the Vikings defense. Man, he hasn't had a lot of upside anyways. I'm going to say risky in 2 QB Superflex.
Again, it's not like he's been lighting it up, for fantasy teams even before this. Sure, the Vikings give up some points to the passing game on the other side, but I don't feel a huge game, even if he's good to go. So, just Superflex. And if Geno is ruled out, we're going to see Sam Howell in for Seattle. You think that he can maybe take advantage of his receivers?
No, don't try to talk yourself into this. I saw Sam Howell for a long time in Washington. It's not pretty. No way I'm starting Sam Howell.
Yeah, I don't think I am either. All right, now we have the Jaguars at the Raiders. More backup quarterbacks. It's still Mac Jones in Jacksonville. You still feeling the same about him?
Actually, I think I'm going to bump him. I think I've been saying no to Mac Jones, but he actually came through with a pretty decent game. It's the Raiders. No Max Crosby for the rest of the season. I think you could do worse in a 2 QB Superflex. Not my favorite, but not the worst.
Well, you're right. I mean, he did have 2 interceptions and will still make some ugly passes at times. But against a pretty good Jets pass defense, he actually kind of came through with numbers, almost 300 yards. I'm still not going to put him as more than a super flex option, but at least he's that now. And Evan Ingram is done for the year, but Brenton Strange, the backup tight end, pretty much stepped up huge. 11 catches last week. Is this something he can repeat?
I don't know if he can repeat that, but this is a very good matchup. Raiders very bad against tight ends, so I think Brenton Strange is going to be one of your best streaming options this week.
As I said, he should be your top waiver wire priority at tight end if you need somebody. Yeah, I think he's a very solid start, regardless of who else you have. Now for the Raiders, Well, we're really, really hoping Aiden O'Connell is good to go after that bone bruise. If he comes back, how are you feeling?
Gotta feel pretty good. It's the Jaguars. It's a good matchup, but it's also still Aiden O'Connell. But I'll say he's a solid 2QB superflex start this week.
It's still Aiden O'Connell. It's still the Raiders. Look, it's the Jaguars defense, so there's a lot of upside in your superflex league. And if it has to be Desmond Ridder again, how low can you go?
This is probably the hardest of the hard passes here. This is QB 32 on the week.
Still don't know who the Giants are going to throw out there, so there might be a heated battle for who's the worst starting quarterback this week, but Desmond Ridder is definitely in contention for that. Now let's talk 49ers at Dolphins. Both these QBs let down last week. Does Brock Purdy bounce back?
I mean, he's got to bounce back from that, almost certainly. The Dolphins are not a good matchup, but at least the weather will be good. And he's still in what I believe is a good offense, but you still can't feel great about Brock Purdy this week. I'm going to say he's still a streaming option, but a risky one.
Well, the Dolphins defense doesn't give up a ton to quarterbacks. They don't get into shootouts anymore. That was last year. I don't know. I can't consider him a streamer. He's just super flex for me. And then possibly the biggest bust at QB was Tua Tagovailoa in what should have been a great matchup. He just wasn't looking right all game. I mean, he was looking right at the defense and throwing it to them. So, is it possible that he bounces back against the Niners?
I mean, he almost certainly has to bounce back as well, and he's at home. And the Niners defense, not quite elite anymore. So I think Tua does bounce back, and I'll say again, he's also a streamer.
I'm worried, not just because of how bad he looked last week, but again, Nick Bosa is back playing. They got Dre Greenlaw back. This Niners defense is starting to resemble what it should have been all season. So I don't want to start Tua. I'm going to say super flex only. But we should still be able to feel good about Jonnu Smith. He's, once again, one of their leading target getters.
Yeah, you got to feel good. This is not a good matchup for him this week, but it doesn't even matter. Strong start.
Right. As far as tight ends go, he's still one of the top for fantasy. Strong start. Bucs at the Cowboys on Sunday night. Baker Mayfield, he really kind of lit it up last week against what was supposed to be a good Chargers defense, and now he gets the Cowboys.
Yeah, it's got to be a strong start this week. He's probably going to be my strongest start outside of the must starts.
There you go. If you've been riding Baker Mayfield all year, just keep it going. What about the tight end, Cade Otton? Ever since Mike Evans came back, he's not really been a big factor.
No, I don't even think he's streamable anymore. 2 catches last week, 3 targets. I'm not starting Otton.
Yeah, they finally have a second legit receiver in McMillan there, so I think Cade Otton is just a desperation streamer. Now, I got to give it to Cooper Rush. He's been solid pretty much all season and actually was pretty good for fantasy last week, 3 touchdowns. So, what do you think?
Yeah, I think he'll be solid, but I still don't think I can trust him in a 1QB league, even against this Bucs defense, 2QB superflex only.
Right. I mean, this isn't necessarily as good a matchup as it used to be. Tampa Bay's defense has gotten a little bit better. Cooper Rush is interesting, but not that interesting in a 1QB league. So let's just say superflex. And then Jake Ferguson, the tight end. Is it time to just forget about him?
I don't want to say outright avoid. There's worse tight ends out there, but very low-end streamer.
Yeah, I'm just going to ignore Ferguson. Hasn't caught a touchdown at all, and this is just all CD Lamb in this pass offense, except for in the end zone where they look at every other receiver, but not Jake Ferguson. So, I'm just going to forget it. Then on Monday night, it's going to be the Saints at the Packers. Going to assume Spencer Rattler is the starting quarterback here because the Jake Haener experiment lasted all of the 1 half. So, Rattler in Green Bay?
No chance. Rattler anywhere, no chance.
Well, hey, at least I can say he's probably my QB 29 because I'm going to put him ahead of Ritter, Tim Boyle, like whoever. So where does that leave Juwan Johnson, tight end?
Gotta leave him on the bench, on the waiver wire. Like, no way I could start him.
It's not even a good defensive matchup. It's not a good offense. It's just no good. Or Jordan Love, is he going to be good enough? It's a home game against the Saints.
Yeah, it's a good matchup, but the worry here is that we just see the Packers, run all over the Saints and Josh Jacobs get a bunch of touchdowns and Jordan Love just be okay. But I think the matchup is good enough and he's at home. I'll say he's solid.
You know what? It's going to take for me to want to actually start Jordan Love in a 1QB league for fantasy. Josh Jacobs not playing. until Josh Jacobs is out of the lineup, which is probably not going to happen, he's kind of mid. I'm going to say super flex only. And then at tight end, it's still Tucker Kraft.
Yeah, he's streamable. You don't know what you're going to get. You're going to get a bust week like last week. You're going to get a touchdown. It's the Saints. It's not a terrible matchup. You can stream them.
Exactly. You never know who's going to score for Green Bay outside of Jacobs. So, risky streamer. If you want to know who to start at running back and wide receiver, if you didn't catch our other start sit or all our other advice for week 16, it's going to be in this playlist.